Welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at the CJRB Ekko. This is a Ray Laconico design, one of my favorite knife makers. I just love his simplicity in his designs, and it always has a classic look and feel. These are coming in at $56, and you can get them in a liner lock version, or you can get them in a button lock version like this. This is a Knife Center exclusive one in the button lock. I'm pretty sure that the button lock ones are flat scaled and liner lock ones are contoured. That's the biggest difference that I've noticed. It's a nice medium-sized EDC knife coming in at 7.48 inches overall, and you get a nice blade coming in at 3.23 inches of their AR RPM 9 proprietary steel, which is an excellent budget steel. Nice stonewash finish on it. You got a nice robust tip for doing piercing task, and a very versatile drop point blade or sheep's foot blade, whatever they call it. It has a fairly high flat grind that comes down fairly thin. It's about 15 thousandths at the thinnest portion behind the edge, so it's going to be a slicey little cutter. You have a sharpening choil that clears that plunge. There's the plunge right there where my fingernail is, and should have a few sharpenings before it starts to widen up in the back. And let's see, if you needed to fix it, you're definitely going to have to be very careful because that stop pin is right there in front of it. It's going to be kind of difficult to fix, but it's capable of being done. You do have a row of jimping, but it's not really functional as far as for thumb placement. However, you have a nice flat spot. I had no problems with my finger wanting to slip off or anything. This has definitely become my favorite blade shape. Anytime I see you got the center line with the pivot right here, and that tip is sitting a little bit below the center line, that just makes it to where your belly is very gradual, and as long as you have some belly, you can still do pinch cuts on like flat cutting surfaces fairly easily. And you can easily do cuts in hand. Like when I was cutting cardboard, I wasn't really worried about, that natural arc sliding out of the cardboard like you would with, say, a very deep clip point blade or something like that, that the tip comes all the way up past the pivot point. CJRB's edges come absolutely stupid sharp, and this one was no exception. This one not only came very sharp, but it sliced very well. Doing the cardboard cutting, I did get caught up in this area a few times, but that's just because I wasn't paying attention, and I was easily able to make an adjustment for it. But I was smiling the whole entire time I was using this knife because it just performed so very well. And when I did my usual wood carving, this handle was beautiful. It's got a nice contour on the liner lock version. They did a good job of knocking off the hard edges at the end, and they do a great job of that. No hot spots to speak of. I could kind of feel the top of this clip only when I was really bearing down, but it wasn't anything to where I felt like I had to stop what I was doing or anything. Very nice in hand, and that edge was making fine curls very easily. And in the hammer grip, I felt like I had so much power. You're not that far away from that edge. You can get all the way up here if you want to get a little bit more control over the edge. But it was a dream to use with pretty much everything I threw in front of it. When I looked at the handle, I pretty much could tell it was probably going to be comfortable because it has that little, gentle curve going down right here, which really, fits into the palm of the hand nicely. So that's always a comfortable scale design. And it's a fairly neutral design. All you have is this one little choil right here. No other crazy choils or anything. And it fits my finger just fine. One thing that I will note is, if you're doing, long periods of cutting and you're having to really squeeze the handle, you're going to start fatiguing the forearms and wrists a little bit because it is very narrow in this area. And it didn't bother me in the little bit I was doing, but anything longer than that, it's going to start cramping you up because you're going to really start to squeeze down on it because of this narrow section right there. The knife performed like a champion whenever I brought it to the flat cutting board to do the rest of my testing. I was able to use that tip to do drag cuts, and in a pinch grip, I could do everything that I needed to do. It blasted through every one of the materials. and it had bite all the way to the end. This thing had a very aggressive edge whenever I was cutting through the denim, which is always something nice to see. And that's the first part of my testing where I can see if an edge has some bite to it. If it doesn't have bite, whenever I'm going through that denim, especially that 12-ounce denim, it wants to skate off of it, or it takes a lot of sawing to get through it. But you know, when it's got a nice sharp edge and it's got some bite to it, I can just literally push down, maybe rock back, and it's cutting through it. And once I got done with all that cutting, and move over to the 1/2-inch sisal rope, that's usually where I dread that test, because some edges just don't have any bite to them, and it wants to slide off the top of it, so I'm really having to force down into it to cut through it. But that's usually never the case with CJRB. And only other thing I was having to worry about is, did this have enough belly for me to still comfortably saw through it like this in a pinch grip, because that's how I do the cutting anyway. And the answer to both of those was yes, yes, and yes. I could easily get done that cutting, and after that first initial cut, it still felt razor sharp up there in the front. Doing a lot of push cutting, doing fast cutting. Anytime you see me moving through it fast or leaving it right here and not taking time in between it, is because the handle's comfortable and it's easily getting through it. That I don't mind testing knives like that, because you know, I have like a permanent blister right here from doing all the different, either the cutting of the rope or the other stuff that I do. And it always pops up every time I do one, but not whenever I have a knife like this. So this one was definitely a joy. We went through 52 cuts of sisal rope, and that's definitely respectable. But the more respectable thing is how good this edge feels right now. Let's see what it looks like. Sometimes the CJRB edges really blow me away, and I think this one will. Let's see. Look at that. Look at that. Not even a hang up. Make an S curve. Look, that's about the only, you know, not dull, but let's try it. Let's try it closer. Yeah, I would definitely say that's great. And probably 4 or 5 passes on my 1 micron strop, and it'll be hair shaving sharp, if it's not already hair shaving sharp. Yeah, it's not, you know, popping the hairs, but it is shaving some of it off. So definitely a pass. The deployment and action on this knife is nice. You have a front flipper and a thumb hole. Good reverse flick, good slow roll, thumb flick. And you can be in that Salina lock. You can do the reach around. You got the flipper tab that goes above the scale, so you can have a lot of leverage when you pull back. Very nice right there. The only thing I did notice is that, especially in doing the reverse flick for me, being that this part of the handle is like very narrow, and how I usually grab a hold to the clip, it's just hard because this finger almost wants to catch that blade whenever I want to do it. It's just something to be mindful of when if that's what you like to do with yours. You could easily thumb flick it. And another thing that is kind of nitpick for me is, like I said earlier, the jimping is rounded over. And luckily, the front flipper tab is above this scale, because if it wasn't and you had to like do that pull around like that, this would slide off your fingers all day, because I have no traction here. And then they rounded over this top right here at least, so it's not super uncomfortable if you happen to slide off, which I have a few times. But you know, just put your finger on top right there and just push back, and it's gonna flip out nicely. The drop action's pretty good. It's riding on bearings, and a ceramic detent ball. Yeah, not bad. Perfectly centered up. Pocket clip, deep carry pocket clip, tip up left or right hand carry. The clip and screws are inset. Excellent job. Like I said earlier, you got nice contouring on the scales. T8 for the pivot, and T6 for the body screws and clip screws. It would have been nice to have them all T8, but at $56, and I like enough of this design that I'm okay with it. Look at the inside. You have 2 hourglass standoffs in the back right here, a hidden lanyard post, and you have inset stainless steel liners that are really dirty of mine. And they have no skeletonization to save on weight, but I think it's, I think it's a fairly lightweight knife as it is because it's pretty narrow. First in grams, 96.9 grams or 3.41 ounces. Perfect. Now let's take a look at the lockup. Lockup on mine is sitting at around 60-70%, a little later than they usually are. No side to side, no up and down whatsoever. Bank vault. You have a nice little cutout on the show side scale to easily get your finger on that lock bar that's got a chamfer on it, so it's nice and comfortable to disengage that lock, for me at least. And here it is next to Civivi Socoke, another Ray Laconico design, and the Miguron Mayoral. It's very, very similar in overall length to both of these. Next, we have the Ontario Rat Model 1 and 2. Lastly, we have the Kaiser Genie and the Sin-Cut Krill. Let's recap my nitpicks real quick, and it's really only one thing, and that is maybe to have gone with some finer cut jimping that's not rounded over so you'd have a little bit more grip. But that said, I can still reliably front flip it, no problem. And overall, at $56, I think this is an absolute home run. Ray Laconico does just some excellent designs. This is a good size weight. It carries very nicely in the pocket. It's nice and slicey, very versatile blade shape. It's got good action, nice and fidgety action. And yeah, what's there not to love? So there you go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Persh.